Informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
PMQs, just minutes away.
Yep.
What was it like when you were an MP, if you were on the list to be called?
Oh, yeah. Well,
was it nerve-wracking?
Yes, nerve-wracking, because a lot of the time when you see images of Parliament, it's not very busy because not all MPs are interested in all debates, they're not all relevant to your constituency. But on the one time of the week that it is absolutely packed is PMQs. You've probably got 450, 500 MPs in there. You can't seat everybody. There's lots of people crowded, standing, even sitting on the steps that go up past the benches. And you know that the eyes of the whole chamber and, of course, massive TV audience for PMQs are on you.
And you know that at least half the room wants you to fail.
That's right.
I.e. the other side.
And it depends. I mean, there are always some kind of government backbenchers who are just stooges and asking questions to make the Prime Minister look good. And I suppose if you're doing that...
They never do make them look good.
No,
They just make them look like sycophants and idiots.
Exactly. But if you're going to ask a question that's either controversial or difficult or really important for your constituency, or sometimes emotional. I mean, some MPs raise tragic situations in their constituencies, then actually it is quite nerve-wracking, because also the other thing you don't appreciate from watching it on television is it's so loud in there. You actually can't hear a lot of what's going on as an MP, and often the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition can't hear what's going on. So sometimes you'll see the Prime Minister give an answer that doesn't really answer the question. Maybe it's because he's avoiding it, but sometimes it's because he can't hear.
And of course, in the brown beading on top of those seats, of course, are microphones.
I call Dr. Luke Evans.
Number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I start by expressing our sincere condolences to His Majesty the King and the royal family on the death of Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Kent. Her life was filled with compassion and dignity. She dutifully supported our late Queen Elizabeth II, comforted the runner-up at Wimbledon, and worked anonymously as a music teacher in Hull, typical of her unassuming nature and human touch. Our thoughts, and I'm sure the whole House's thoughts, are with His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, his family, and all those whose lives she touched. Mr. Speaker, turning to other events, I condemn the strikes that Israel carried out in Doha yesterday. They violate Qatar's sovereignty. They do nothing to secure the peace that the UK and so many of our allies are committed to. I spoke to the Emir of Qatar last night, soon after the attack, to convey our support and solidarity. He was crystal clear that notwithstanding the attacks, he would continue to work on a diplomatic solution to achieve a ceasefire and a two-state outcome. He and I are on the same mind on this, Mr. Speaker. That is why I met President Abbas on Monday and why I will meet President Herzog later on today. I will be absolutely clear that we condemn Israel's action. I will also be clear that restrictions on aid must be lifted, the offensive in Gaza must stop, and settlement building must cease. But, Mr. Speaker, however difficult, the UK will not walk away from a diplomatic solution. We will negotiate and we will strain every sinew, because that is the only way to get the hostages out, to get aid in, and to stop the killing. Mr. Speaker, last night Russia launched drones into Poland in an unprecedented attack. I've been in touch with the Polish Prime Minister this morning to make clear our support for Poland. We will stand firm in our support for Ukraine. With our partners and through our leadership of the coalition willing, we will continue to ramp up the pressure on Putin until there's a just and lasting peace. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Just to say to the House, I've sent a letter on behalf of Parliament, a letter of condolence to the royal family on behalf of the sad news of the Duchess of Kent. Right, let us come back to Dr. Luke Evans.
Here, 1 year on, the country's seen a Transport Secretary resign over fraud an anti-corruption minister investigated for corruption, a homelessness minister make tenants homeless, and a housing secretary not pay tax on her second house. Prime Minister, we've also had a Prime Minister who accepted more freebies than any other MP in the last Parliament. Is this the integrity he meant when he came to government?
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's the difference. I strengthened the ministerial code. I strengthened the independent advisor. The Deputy Prime Minister referred to herself to the advisor. It was a clear finding, and she did the right thing. Mr. Speaker, contrast that with the Shadow Foreign Secretary. She was found to have broken the code under the last government. What did the Prime Minister do then, Mr. Speaker? He ignored that. There was a resignation, but that was the resignation of the advisor, not the person who's found to have breached the code. And she still sits on their front bench. That is the difference.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After almost 2 decades of the SNP and 14 years of the Tories, Kirkcaldy High Street has been in a state of decline.
Won't be in this chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After almost 2 decades of the SNP and 14 years of the Tories, Kirkcaldy High Street has been in a state of decline. That's why the Chancellor was right to prioritise Kirkcaldy for multi-million-pound regeneration funding from the new Growth Mission Fund to build on the enormous potential of our town and beautiful seafront. Does the Prime Minister agree that investment over decline is key to this Labour government, and will he ask the new Business Secretary to meet with me to discuss this funding?
Well, I thank her for her question. She's been a tireless campaigner for investment into High Street. Mr. Speaker, I can give her good news because thanks to funding committed by the Chancellor and this Labour government, I can confirm today that subject to business case approval, we will approve millions to transform Kirkcaldy's High Street and seafront. I will, of course, make sure she gets the meeting she wants with the Business Secretary. The SNP have squandered the potential of these high streets for 2 decades. Next year, people can vote for positive change with a Scottish Labour government.
We come to the Leader of the Opposition, can we be or not?
Mr. Speaker, can I associate myself with the comments the Prime Minister made about the Duchess of Kent? She lived an exemplary life of public service and she will be very much missed. And I also agree with the Prime Minister, as should all of us in this House. We stand shoulder to shoulder with Poland and all our NATO allies against Putin's aggression. A NATO country has just had to defend itself against Russian drones. Now, more than ever, we need our ambassador to Washington fully focused on this issue and liaising closely with America. Does the Prime Minister have full confidence in Peter Mandelson?
Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying the victims of Epstein are the forefront of our minds. He was a despicable criminal who committed the most heinous crimes and destroyed the lives of so many women and girls. The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
This is interesting, Mr. Speaker. He says the ambassador has expressed full regret, but the victims of the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein have called for Lord Mandelson to be sacked. And just so the House is aware, in 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of child prostitution and sex trafficking that took place between 2002 and 2005. That is the precise period which Lord Mandelson called Jeffrey Epstein his best pal. Absolutely. Was the Prime Minister aware of this intimate relationship when he appointed Lord Mandelson to be our ambassador in Washington?
Mr. Speaker, as she and the House would expect, full due process was followed during this appointment, as as it is with all ambassadors, the ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret. He is right to do so. He's now playing an important part in the US-UK relationship.
Mr. Speaker, I asked the Prime Minister if he knew. The fact that he didn't answer indicates that he probably did know. I wasn't asking a question about process, I was asking a question about his judgment. The Daily Telegraph reports today that while Lord Mandelson was Business Secretary, he brokered a deal with Jeffrey Epstein while he was Business Secretary, and that this occurred after Epstein had been convicted of child sex offences. Given this new information, does the Prime Minister really think it is tenable for our ambassador to remain in post?
Mr. Speaker, the relationship between the US and the UK is one of our foremost relationships, and I have confidence in the ambassador in the role that he is doing.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is embarrassing that the Prime Minister is still saying that he has confidence in a man who was brokering deals with convicted child sex offenders while sitting in government. That is a disgrace. This government has repeatedly refused to declare Lord Mandelson's full interests. And as part of the appointment, there will have been extensive government vetting, including details and timings of Peter Mandelson's dealings with Jeffrey Epstein. So will the Prime Minister publish all these documents, including those about his interests?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I say, full due process was gone through in relation to this appointment, as would be expected. As for the publication of documents, as she well knows, that's subject to a procedure which includes an independent element. Be subject to the usual procedure.
The Prime Minister cannot answer any questions. That is not the behaviour of someone who has full confidence. The ambassador should be in the White House talking about how we respond to an incursion into NATO airspace. Instead, he is giving interviews about himself to The Sun. This is a man who already had to be removed from cabinet twice, and now we learned that he was brokering billion-pound deals with Jeffrey Epstein while business secretary. I didn't get a proper answer. He's talking about process. This is not about process. This is about judgment. Just last week, I told him that he should sack his deputy prime minister. They all cheered and congratulated themselves. She was gone 2 days later. His face too is broken, and he's got a totally new front bench. So I will ask him again, will he make sure that these documents are published, and will he actually instruct Peter Mandelson to publish all his correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein?
She says the ambassador should be in the White House discussing NATO. He is, as we all are, with a number of international calls this morning and on Ukraine, as well as the attack in Doha yesterday. Mr. Speaker, I see she's finally catching up with the questions that she should have asked last week about the Deputy Prime Minister. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, we have been opened up a new schools-based nursery. On Monday, we had the Defence Industrial Strategy. On Tuesday, we published NHS league tables to push up standards. We reopened Doncaster and Sheffield Airport yesterday. And today, we've set out how we're repairing the concrete in our hospitals.
A load of waffle and whataboutery, Mr. Speaker. Interested right now is their pointless deputy leadership election while the country is out there suffering from an economic crisis. The Prime Minister has an ambassador mired in scandal, not focusing on NATO. He lost his deputy Prime Minister just last week for evading taxes. He's got a new Home Secretary, a new Foreign Secretary, just learning the ropes, not able to help with this issue. We have strikes crippling our capital city and damaging our economy. He could use minimum service legislation, which we introduced, to make the lives of the people out there better, but he won't because he does not have the backbone to face down the unions. The unions are running this government. All the deputy leadership candidates are chasing after them. And while with this government it is more strikes, more scandal, more chaos. And the link, Mr. Speaker, isn't the link between all of this his bad decisions, his bad judgment, and his total weakness.
Mr. Speaker, our Deputy Leader contest started this week and ends on the 25th of October. Their leadership contest has been going on for months and will continue for a very long time. And all this noise from the arsonists whilst we're putting out the fires that they left behind. Interest rates and waiting lists, Mr. Speaker, down. Wages, investment and deportations up. And And now we're stepping up defence spending, creating new jobs, driving up standards in our NHS and rebuilding our crumbling schools and hospitals. This is a government of patriots fighting for working people.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Labour government is getting our NHS back on its feet with 20,000 fewer patients on waiting lists at my local trust since the election. But there is still more to do, including making it easier to see a GP. So can the Prime Minister set out how this government will give my constituents in East Worthing and Shoreham access to the healthcare that they deserve?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased we've made progress on the NHS. We promised 2 million extra appointments in the first year of a Labour government. We've delivered not 2, not 3, but over 4 million extra appointments, with 2,000 extra GPs and clearing up the dangerous rack in our hospitals. The National League tables, Mr. Speaker, that we published this week will make sure that investment goes where it's needed most, and our 10-year health plan will see neighbourhood health centres in every community to treat patients closer to home. There's more to do, but we've made a lot of progress.
Sir Ed Davey, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister in sending our condolences to His Majesty and the royal family on the death of the Duchess of Kent? And can I echo the Prime Minister's condemnation of Netanyahu's attacks on Qatar? These are not the actions of a leader truly focused on getting hostages home. And I hope the Prime Minister will say that directly to President Herzog later today. On Suicide Prevention Day, Mr. Speaker, can I thank all working to prevent suicides, from professionals to charities like the Samaritans. Mr. Speaker, when I talk to parents of disabled children, there's one complaint about government that comes up time and again. All the hoops they must jump through, from EHCPs to the DWP to HMRC. Caring is exhausting enough without all the forms and rules that show no understanding of the realities of life as a carer. It's something Emily and I know well. It's something that our former Deputy Prime Minister brought attention to last week. So will the Prime Minister work with carers across this House to overhaul systems for family carers so government works much better for people looking after their loved ones?
Well, I do agree with him. There are too many hurdles and too many hoops that have to be gone through, and that's why we're simplifying the system, and we will, of course, work across the House with all those who want to achieve that outcome. Can I also just thank those dealing with suicide prevention? I think probably everybody in this House knows someone who has taken their life, and it touches all of us, and we must do everything we can together to prevent suicide.
Sir Ed Davey.
Moving on, Mr. Speaker, as the Leader of the Opposition said, Lord Mandelson has admitted to continuing his relationship long after Epstein was convicted, and that there are more embarrassing details we don't yet know. Mr. Speaker, people will be surprised by the Prime Minister giving Ambassador Mandelson such strong support today. So can he tell the House, has the Prime Minister asked the Ambassador what other compromising material the Trump administration might have on him as he leads Britain's negotiations with the White House?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've made clear to the House, a full due process was gone through when the appointment was made.
George Newbury.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent Connor Edwards lives with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and craniocervical instability, which in his words means his head is slowly falling off his body. Having once enjoyed fishing and mountain biking, at the age of 30, Connor's now largely bedbound and says his condition has destroyed his quality of life. He's also having to crowdfund for treatment in Spain because the NHS can't give him the help he needs. Could the Prime Minister ensure that myself, Connor and EDS charities get a meeting with the Minister to discuss what more we can do to give thousands of people like Connor their freedom back?
Mr. Speaker, I've read through the details of Connor's case that's just been summarised. It is heartbreaking. I do thank my honourable friend for consistently campaigning and championing all of those that are affected. I will make sure that he gets the meetings that he needs so we can hear from Connor and others and learn from their experience.
Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, Gaza is a graveyard, but rather than end arms sales, extend sanctions and stand by international law, the Prime Minister will today welcome into his home, a home entrusted to him by the people of these Isles, the man who called for the collective punishment of the Palestinian people and who signed the artillery shells that destroyed their homes, their families and their friends. A man who will ignore every word the Prime Minister says. Would he invite Vladimir Putin into number 10? Would he invite Benjamin Netanyahu into number 10? What does it say of this Prime Minister that he will harbour this man whilst children starve?
Mr. Speaker, for the record, we have suspended arms that could be used in Gaza, we have sanctioned extremists, and we suspended trade talks. But the point he raised is a very serious one. We all want an outcome that ensures peace, that the hostages get out, that aid gets in, and there's a two-state outcome. It is the only way we will get peace in a region that has suffered conflict for a very, very long time. I will not give up on diplomacy. That is the politics of students.
Bill Lesterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about fracking. It contaminates the water table. It causes air pollution. The test drilling in Lancashire led to earthquakes. So will the Prime Minister stand up to the climate deniers? Will he ban fracking once and for all? And does he agree that those who are backing it are supporting fracking stupid reform?
Mr. Speaker, we will ban fracking for good. And let's be absolutely clear, the biggest risk to energy prices is staying hooked onto volatile international fossil fuel markets. And in stark contrast to reform, they're ignoring local communities, they're putting green jobs and investment at risk, and committing to higher bills by warning renewable companies not to invest. That is shocking.
Simon Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few short weeks ago, a constituent of mine died in a tragic fire at the Lady Bailey Residential Park in Winterbourne, Whitechurch. That was attended by 50 Dorset and Wiltshire firefighters and others. This summer alone, 900 grassland, woodland and crop fires have equalled the busiest year on record for that fire service. I extend my thanks to all of them for all that they do. He will be aware that rural funding is always an issue, and the funding of the delivery of rural services is always a challenge. Would he arrange for a meeting with the relevant minister in the Home Office for the senior officials of that fire service and me to meet to discuss the needs of our rural area to ensure that my constituents and those across the counties of Dorset and Wiltshire are kept as safe as they possibly can be?
Can I say I'm very sorry to hear about the particular case that he raises, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House with the friends and family of the constituent that he's referenced. And our thoughts are actually with all of those affected, particularly farmers, and I want to join him in thanking our firefighters who've worked tirelessly to keep people safe. We have provided Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Authority with an increased budget of almost £75 million, but I will make sure that he gets the meeting that he asks for to ensure that we can properly support our firefighters and protect our farmland.
John Trickett.
Thank you, sir. And this morning I spoke to the parents of a young man who's unemployed in my constituency. There are 20 people on the dole in my area for every job that's been advertised. Unemployment is a personal crisis and a social crisis. Will the Prime Minister join with me in reminding the House that unemployment is not a price worth paying, which the opposition party clearly believes? And will the Prime Minister indicate that he will break with the failed economic orthodoxy which suggests that such a thing is true?
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that the employment rate is up, inactivity is down, and we've created over 380,000 jobs since we've been in power. Mr. Speaker, going further, as a proud Yorkshireman, he will know and he will welcome the reopening of Doncaster Sheffield Airport just yesterday, made possible by the decisions that we've made. That's a Labour mayor working with a Labour government to create jobs across the country.
Mr. Speaker, 51 Israeli arms companies are exhibiting at the DSEI Arms Fair in London this week. Some of them even boast that their products are battle-tested. We all know what that means, used to kill men, women and children. So this government often asks us what more we expect them to do when it comes to Gaza. Here's one. Will the Prime Minister stop Israeli arms dealers from parading their Gaza-tested weapons on UK soil?
Mr. Speaker, we have very clear and strict rules in relation to this, and we have taken action in relation to arms sales.
Ruth Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Prime Minister for his sympathy and words of condolence regarding the sudden and untimely death of Hefin David, our Welsh member of the Senedd for Caerphilly. His contributions over the last 18 years as a councillor and a member of the Senedd since 2016 were always relevant, witty and incisive. And our thoughts are with his partner and his family. Now, Drone Evolution is a manufacturer based in Caerphilly, and Airbus and Newport West are just two of the companies that will benefit from Labour's investment in defence. So can I welcome this new defence industrial strategy and ask the Prime Minister to update the House on how the new defence growth zones will create more jobs across Wales and beyond?
Well, Mr. Speaker, Hefin was a proud Welshman and champion for Caerphilly. And we send our love and support to his partner Vicky, his daughters, to his family and his friends. Wales does have a thriving defence sector, and I'm delighted it will host one of our new defence growth zones. That's investing £250 million to make defence an engine for jobs and growth across the United Kingdom. That's what you get, Mr. Speaker, when you have a Labour government in both Cardiff and Westminster working together to deliver for Wales.
Andrew Rossendale.
Mr. Speaker, sir, my local borough commander in Romford tells me how much valuable police time is being wasted investigating trivial social media posts and non-crime hate incidents. Shouldn't the police be patrolling our streets rather than moderating the internet, Mr. Speaker? So, will the Prime Minister commit to urgently updating the Public Order Act to reflect the realities of the digital age so that our police are focused on tackling real crime and upholding freedom of speech rather than suppressing it?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've been clear on a number of occasions. I do want the police to concentrate on serious crime and on crime that matters most to our communities in each of our constituencies. I've said that before and I'll say it again today.
Adam Jogi.
Thank you very much. People in Crackley and Bradwell and Whitecross and Newcastle under Lyme are sick and tired of antisocial behaviour going untackled. I welcome the government's commitment to taking back our streets, but we need action. So will he join me in urging the Conservative Police Commissioner in Staffordshire to use the resources that he's been given to support our local police and to finally get a grip so my constituents can live their lives free of hassle and, most importantly, safely?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the party opposite decimated neighbourhood policing. People should feel safe in their communities, and that's exactly why I've committed to putting 13,000 additional police personnel back in our town centres and communities. That means, Mr. Speaker, there'll be a named police officer in every community armed with tough new respect orders to break up antisocial behaviour. And these powers are contained in our crime and policing bill, which the party opposite and Reform voted against.
Mark Pritchard.
His Majesty's Prison Stoke Heath in Shropshire has seen 6 deaths in custody in less than 2 years. That is above the national average. Will the Prime Minister join me in calling upon the Ministry of Justice to ensure that there are enough resources and the right governance is in place at Stoke Heath?
The Secretary of State for Justice will look into this and take up the suggestion, and I'll arrange for a meeting as soon as possible.
Simon Offer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vaccinations were invented in Berkeley, in my constituency, 230 years ago, and as a GP, I have jabbed literally thousands of children and adults. Would the Prime Prime Minister update the House about our new rollout of chickenpox vaccinations, which will further protect our children? And would he also agree with me to condemn other political parties that give platforms for people who spread false rumours about vaccination?
Well, my honourable friend speaks with great authority, and I'm proud that Labour are protecting 500,000 children by rolling out the chickenpox vaccines. In stark contrast, the man who wrote Reform's health policy has made shocking and baseless claims that vaccines are linked to cancer. And that's been endorsed by Reform leader. They laugh at it. These dangerous conspiracies cost lives, and it shows that Reform can't be trusted with our NHS.
Charlotte Key.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seneca Solar Farm, which runs through my constituency, was given permission by this government, and there are more solar farm applications in the pipeline. My constituents are concerned that these are being made without a land use framework, which would have provided reassurances that the competing demands for land are balanced effectively. Will the Prime Minister make a commitment to give the land use framework statutory weight to ensure that land is used strategically to get the best for new, clean, renewable energy, which genuinely benefits communities and for farmers, nature, water and housing?
Mr. Speaker, it is important that we move to renewables in order to have energy independence and to keep our bills down, and this will benefit lots of communities, including her own. I do want to reassure her constituents that we will, of course, follow process and that they will always have a say in any decisions that we make.
David Pinto-Tuchinski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The leasehold system is fundamentally broken. Thousands of leaseholders in Hendon are getting a raw deal, paying ever-rising service charges for ever poorer service. It's why I welcome the government's commitment to end the feudal system of leasehold once and for all. Will the Prime Minister share with the House what action this government is taking to help leaseholders and bring in a system of common hold?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the last government shattered the dream of home ownership. We are reforming the outdated system so leaseholders receive stronger rights, powers and protections. We will bring to the end the feudal leasehold system, reinvigorate common hold and deliver the biggest boost to social and affordable housing in a generation.
Dr. Al Pinkerton.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since May, my Surrey Heath constituent, Sue, has received thousands of pounds worth of fines after a criminal gang in London cloned her number plate and went on a rampage through the capital. In an age of increasingly sophisticated digital security, the number registration system seems like a remarkably analogue anachronism, is ripe for abuse and is failing drivers. Will the Prime Minister look at my presentation bill laid last week, pick it up and strengthen legislation, ensure police services have the tools they require to tackle this growing crime and to protect law-abiding motorists?
Well, can I say I'm sorry to hear about his constituent. That's an awful situation for anyone to find themselves in. I'll, of course, look at his bill.
Dr. Ruperhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the Prime Minister recalls visiting the Ukrainian community of Acton with me soon after Putin's illegal invasion. They still fondly do, and they wanted me to ask him next week at Trump's state visit, can he harness his unique role with US influence and the coalition of the willing in Europe to the max and redouble all efforts to find a just peace with security guarantees for them and war crimes punished so that we can end this war that's gone on far too long?
I do recall the visit. It was extremely good and very welcoming. And our support for Ukraine, Mr. Speaker, remains unwavering. And the attack last night in Poland shows that Putin's belief that he can somehow act with impunity. And that's why we're working so hard with the coalition of the willing to ensure that there are security guarantees as we go forward. Made real progress in recent weeks. We must continue to ramp up the pressure on Putin.
Terrible.
Mr. Speaker. Today is the 10th annual Back British Farming Day. And given the Prime
Prime Minister is so keen on resets in recent weeks, will he reset his relationship with our farmers and reverse the family farm tax?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what we're doing. We're working with the former president of the National Farmers Union, Baroness Minette Batters, to review farm profitability. Mr. Speaker, this is the key issue. We are delivering the 25-year farming roadmap, and of course we've struck a deal with the EU, which is of great benefit to farmers, which of course they all say they will reverse. Mr. Speaker, that's on top of the £5 billion that we put into farming in our last budget.
Final question, Liz Twist.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. It can be scary to talk about suicide, but we need to. So many of our constituents will know or love someone who has taken their own life, or they may have suicidal thoughts themselves. But suicide is not inevitable, it's preventable, and everyone has a role to play in saving lives. So will the Prime Minister reaffirm this government's commitment to preventing deaths by suicide and say how the government is tackling this vital issue?
Mr. Speaker, can I start by thanking her and paying tribute to her for her work as my PPS for the last 14 months. She has worked tirelessly with huge commitment and respect across the whole of this House. In relation to suicide prevention, I think this is something that matters to everybody in this House. I will reaffirm our commitment, and I'll work across the House with all members to deal with suicide prevention.
We'll let the front benches change over.
That was Prime Minister's Question Time. Peter Mandelson taking front stage from Kemi Badenoch, putting questions to the Prime Minister. And let's introduce you to our panel.
Absolutely. Here in the studio, delighted to be joined by the Labour MP for Darlington, Lola McAvoy, and the Shadow Scottish Secretary for the Conservatives, Andrew Bowie. Now, before we get to our conversation with our politicians in the studio, let's jump straight back to Westminster, where our political editor, Christopher Hope, has been watching PMQs. Chris, what did you make of it?
Well, that, frankly, was the strongest performance I've seen by Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader. She's had a few misfires, notably last week when she didn't really hammer the government on Angela Rayner's future and her tax affairs. You heard 6 questions there, all on the same issue, pummelling the Prime Minister about Jeffrey Epstein. What does the government know about the deeper links we're seeing disclosed by these papers in America, about the connection between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein? Again and again and again, she asked a question. She said it's a disgrace that the PM won't go further and release more information about the vetting process. Asked Peter Mandelson to release all the embarrassing information he may know about. She accused the PM of waffle and whataboutery. Now, the PM's responses, I thought, were extremely weak. All due process was followed, he said. Several times he had to say he had confidence in Peter Mandelson. It was the best performance by the Tory leader, and it needs to be, because she goes into quite a difficult conference season. This is the last PMQs before the conference season starts. She's making her first speech ever to the Tory party conference. This will help her. The Tory MPs behind her loved it. Other quick issues raised there. Of course, we're seeing Isaac Herzog, who's the Israeli president. He is in number 10 later. You heard Stephen Flynn there shouting at the Prime Minister from the SNP about why on earth he is hosting this individual because of what's happening in Gaza. The PM said back, and he was strong on this, I won't give up on diplomacy. That is the politics of students, he said. And that also was strong, I think, back from the Prime Minister. Elsewhere, Andrew Rosendale, who's a Tory MP, known to our viewers and listeners at GB News, he said, why can't the government amend the Public Order Act and require police not to investigate things like tweets that aren't a risk to public safety? Now, the PM didn't say he would. He simply said, again, he wants police forces to go after serious criminals that matter to our communities. But yet again, he won't say in terms that he will change the guidance for police forces. And that's what the Met Police Chief was saying this morning. He needs guidance change, and that will stop people being arrested, frankly, for tweets. And just finally, yet again, another dig from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, at Reform UK, this time on those claims which were disassociated by the party from someone at the Reform UK conference linking COVID vaccines to the cancer diagnoses for the Princess of Wales and the King. Clearly the PM used that to try and cast aspersions on Reform UK. At the same time, I was looking at those 4 Reform MPs. They were shouting back at the Prime Minister. So yet again, it was teeing up, I think, what would be a very, very spicy party conference season.
Absolutely. What a finale for these 2 weeks of PMQs that we've been enjoying. Chris Hope, thanks for bringing us all of that analysis live from Westminster Hall.
Thank you for sending in all your brilliant questions. We're going to get through as many as we can with our panel. Shall we start with the main subject, Lola McAvoy from Labour? Welcome to you both, by the way. John asks, will Mandelson be gone by Friday? Like Rayner last week was gone by Friday after being backed by the Prime Minister at Prime Minister's Question Time.
So we obviously saw the Prime Minister just then say that he had confidence in Peter Mandelson. I think the situation is incredibly difficult when you hear any story, any news story about Epstein, the most vile paedophile and sex trafficker. It seems to get even more about his global reach and his manipulation of people. Peter Mandelson is doing an interview this afternoon, this evening. I, for one, will be watching it. I haven't seen it yet, and I'll be very interested as to what he says, because he has expressed regret, which obviously he should. He absolutely should express regret about a relationship with such a vile and disgusting convicted paedophile.
But there is a real question here about not just sort of not knowing what happened before we all knew what happened. One of the questions that the Leader of the Opposition raised was a deal done by Peter Mandelson with Jeffrey Epstein after his initial conviction for sex trafficking. I mean,
so these are the questions that we want to see answered by Peter Mandelson.
Surely there was a vetting process. The Prime Minister decided to... It's quite a competitive process, actually. I mean, there was another famous name in the running to be our ambassador, David Miliband. Peter Mandelson got it. That was the Prime Minister's choice. He chose this man despite knowing what we know now. Why?
Despite knowing what we know now. So I wasn't obviously in party to those conversations, and I am sure that these questions need to be answered by Peter Mandelson himself. What I think we need to say is that this is actually about the victims here as well. So Jeffrey Epstein was a horrendous perpetrator of violence against women and girls, and this government, under this Prime Minister and definitely under Jess Phillips, who is absolutely incredible, are going to be reforming and driving through an agenda that will put victims at the heart of our criminal justice system. We've seen rape convictions in this country plummet under the last government. This government are absolutely determined to make sure that where women, I think it's something like 3 in 100 rapes are actually reported to the police, and then 2% of those rapes under the last government were ever convicted.
This government did have to be dragged kicking and screaming to actually do what the victims of the rape gangs were saying, though, and hold a national inquiry. They are now going to be holding this inquiry.
We don't react immediately to being pulled from pillar to post by different policy agendas. That's not how it works in government. It is slow, it is done properly, and it takes proper decisions. We have now...
it was a U-turn.
I don't agree with that. I would rebut that.
Let me bring Andrew Bowie in from the Conservatives. Let me put these words to you from Peter Mandelson. I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. Secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done. Can people apologise in politics?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the victims deserve that apology. I think it's right and proper that he did apologise. But the question is not about whether or not Peter Mandelson should apologise to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. We all agree that Epstein was a vile, heinous individual who was involved in the trafficking of human beings across the world and indeed guilty of some of the most horrific crimes. But the question is about the Prime Minister and his judgment in appointing Peter Mandelson, a man that he must have known had done business deals whilst serving in the previous Labour administration with the man who at that stage had already been convicted for sex crimes. And I think Kemi was absolutely right to focus today on questions around the Prime Minister's judgment, given his lack of judgment, it seems, thus far on some of the other appointments that he's made since he became Prime Minister, and asking for a full transparency and for the interest and the vetting procedures to be published. I think is very much in the national interest. This man is one of the most powerful diplomats for this country in the world, with access to the White House, the Trump presidency.
People are talking about this at the Dog and Duck? Or are they talking about the fact that there's too much month to get to the end of it with their wages?
Well, I think they are, and hence why Kemi yesterday focused a major speech on the welfare bill and the state of the economy. But today I think people want to know whether or not this Prime Minister, whose judgment has been called into question time and again over the past few months, can really be trusted to make the big decisions when so many of the people that he's appointed to top positions are now under pressure.
I just wanted to ask what the Conservative opposition's policies are on violence against women and girls, because I think it's right to major on making sure that we protect victims. I think it's right to question the Prime Minister about issues that are in the news and, about appointees to government. That's right. But I want to know, where does Kemi Badenoch stand on prosecutions for rape and on spending the budget, which she did not spend under the last government? The last government didn't spend their violence against women and girls budget. And I think it took them a year. When they launched their strategy, it took them a year to have their first meeting. So they've got a really poor track record, and I think it's a little bit rich to hear them, posturing around victims of crimes like this.
No posturing whatsoever. I was privileged to serve on the domestic abuse bill in the last Parliament, and we acted to put victims at the very heart of government thinking when it comes to tackling some of these most horrific crimes. We were the ones that called for a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal across this country. And Kemi, when she was in government as the Secretary of State for Women and Equalities, did a huge amount to progress women's rights within this country and action to be taken against perpetrators of some of these ridiculous crimes. So I don't think that you could be questioning her commitment to women, girls and the victims of these crimes. The questions today were on the judgment of the Prime Minister, which is severely lacking, it seems, in so many of the appointments he's made.
But yet
since
there's
he walked into
independent
number
vetting
10.
processes.
Yes, and let's see.
You didn't raise a peep at the time about the appointment of Peter Mandelson and the Tories.
We all raised cocked an eyebrow, I think, at Peter Mandelson's appointment, given he has already been sacked from government twice for various.
And yet, to be fair, there will have been things that have been raised by the official vetting that any public appointment at that senior level is gone through. The security services will have seen some of this information that we are now learning in the public domain. And the Prime Minister at PMQs refused to publish those documents that the Leader of the Opposition asked him to publish.
Well, I think... Well, I don't know what the normal process is about publishing those documents. I don't know how confidential they are. I don't know. I mean, you might know you've been in government for a lot longer than I have been an MP, but I'm not sure what the process is. I think it's sort of... These are big questions that need to be answered by Peter Mandelson himself, and hopefully he will in his interview tonight.
Also, there's the double standard. I mean, Prince Andrew, for example, rightly has been removed from public life and had so many of his privileges removed as a result of his connections with Jeffrey Epstein. And that photograph of him meeting with him after his conviction. Peter Mandelson did this business deal at about the same time.
We are going to have a very quick break, but still to come, we have your questions on whether Starmer has a Hotspur Farage, on immigration, on the NHS. Is it getting any better?
Lots of juice to come.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. Now today's going to stay pretty unsettled for many of us because there's more heavy and thundery showery rain pushing its way across the country. There is an occluded front making its way northeastwards. This is bringing some showers, but behind it a deeper feature that's bringing some more intense rain. So some heavy bursts of thundery rain pushing across particularly western parts of England, Wales and also western Scotland. It's here where we're going to see the highest rainfall totals building up. Even elsewhere, a fair few showers to watch out for, but the greatest chance of staying dry will be across eastern areas, and here perhaps the highest temperatures. We're looking at them just about scraping into the low 20s, but do watch out, there will be some blustery winds taking the edge off those temperatures. Now, as we go through into this evening, that more persistent and at times heavy rain will push across more parts of Scotland, so western, southern parts here. We're going to see those totals building up a wet into the day here. Showers across Northern Ireland, still some heavy, perhaps even thundery ones. Meanwhile, more heavy, perhaps persistent rain across parts of northern England, and it's a showery picture across much of the rest of England and Wales as we go through towards the night. Now, there will be something a bit drier and clearer following in behind from the west as that band of more persistent rain clears away towards the northeast, but also a fair few showers coming in from western parts as we go overnight, and so it's not going to turn completely dry, although across some central and eastern parts there will be a lot of dry and clear weather, and here temperatures dropping a little bit lower than they have done through some recent nights, even some towns and cities getting into single figures. Then tomorrow it's going to be a blustery, showery day. The showers piling in from the west, so it's western areas where they're going to be most frequent, but some will filter their way further east as well. The chance of some more persistent rain affecting the far northwest of Scotland, and here we're going to have some strong winds, the risk of gales perhaps for some of us too. Elsewhere, a blustery day.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M23 southbound between junctions 8 and 9 faces delays due to a police incident closing all lanes. Motorists should seek alternative routes. On the M74, a traffic incident has closed the northbound stretch between junctions 8 and 6. Delays and diversions expected. In Leicestershire, the M1 southbound between junctions 21 and 20 is down to one lane for roadwork. Normal conditions are expected from 1:30 today, and on the trains, northern services are replaced by buses between Corkickle and Whitehaven. South Western Railway reports disruption between Winchester and Basingstoke. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back to PMQs Live. We're going to dive straight back into these questions because one of our viewers has written in to ask, I think secretly Keir Starmer has the hots for Nigel Farage. He can't stop talking about him. Lola McAvoy, what do you make of that?
Oh, well, thanks for the laugh. But I do think, you know, there's one thing I can say with deep conviction. I certainly do not have the hots for Nigel Farage, and I'm sure the Prime Minister doesn't either. I mean, the Reform Conference, the coverage of that was flabbergasting. I don't know, I think you said you were there. I certainly wasn't there. Gloria wasn't there. But to see him talking with such varied policy areas, and I honestly, that song from Andrea Jenkins, what was that about?
You don't like a bit of high camp sequined razzmatazz?
I was going to say, I'm all here for razzle dazzle. But I honestly thought, fair play to her, she's got a sense of humour, like bit of banter, like nice one. But I think she was taking herself seriously. I mean, it was unbelievable.
We were looking at Prime Minister's questions there. Reform have just 4 out of 650 MPs, and the Prime Minister keeps referring to Nigel Farage. He keeps bringing him up unprompted. Why?
I don't know what you mean by that, but I can say that last week I was guilty of that. I said a question about Nigel Farage, but he wasn't in the chamber. He was in the US talking down the country, and I was talking about the Online Safety Act and how that's there to protect children online and how Reform are against it.
Let me bring Andrew Bowie in. Thomas says, Starmer keeps talking about Reform and sometimes the Tories. Now, doesn't that say it all about your party? You're a fringe party. It's all about Nigel Farage and Reform. They're not even worried about you in the government.
We're His Majesty's loyal and official opposition, and we're the oldest and most successful political party in the history of democracy. We are far from a fringe party.
It's all going swimmingly, isn't it?
Well, no, obviously we've got a tough job in our hands to convince people to win back their trust again, and that's why Kemi yesterday focused a major intervention on welfare and the economy. It's why we're doing the hard work of policy development. So when the time does come to put that question to the British people, who do you want to be your next government? We'll be there fighting on the issues for the British people. Nigel Farage he captures the headlines, and he's a great showman and a fantastic communicator, but we're doing the hard graft of opposition and fighting for the issues the British people care about.
Do you wish you'd talk about your tiny little bit more, Prime Minister?
Well, no, I'm quite happy if Keir doesn't talk about us at all, frankly.
So I was just going to say, why were so many big Conservative players at Reform Conference? Because was it a Reform Conference? Was it a Reform and Tory conference? I mean, you had
we've got our conference in a few weeks. You'd be more than welcome to come to Manchester.
I'm sure.
Jenkins and Dorries are now members of Reform. They're not members of the
Conservative. I might be washing my hair. Was it Jenkins, Dorries, Gove, Rees-Mogg, all there at the conference? Why are they attending that?
Michael Gove he's the editor of The Spectator magazine. He can go where he likes, and you'd have to ask Michael. And Jacob, well, he's got a tendency to like to cause controversy, and he was a huge draw, I'm sure.
It was actually fascinating to watch Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was speaking at a Prosperity Institute fringe event, but he was absolutely mobbed by everyone there. Lots of speculation. Is he going to join? He said he wouldn't join Reform although I think his daughter has, which is interesting.
I am sure that Jacob and indeed I know that Michael Gove will both be at Conservative Party conference in a few weeks' time.
Let's have a question on the NHS. Marion's been in touch. I'm going to thank you for getting in touch. I'm going to try and cut down your question a little bit. Marion needed an appointment. She was told by the NHS there's a 6-month wait. Then, once she's in the consultant, it would be another 16-week wait. She went private because the NHS wasn't there for her. She says, no wonder these waiting lists are coming down. People are having to go private. It's a mess, isn't it, still?
So it's awful when people feel that they have to use private healthcare. That is an absolutely damning indictment of the legacy that we inherited, that we all know that the NHS has been deeply underfunded, and that is why one of the main reasons that we've had to prioritise it in the last budget. So much money has come from this government into the NHS. We are reforming the way that we do things. We're making sure that we can have a proper digital infrastructure. Now, this is really important because you can go to the GP, you get a blood test, then you can go to another appointment with somebody. They can say, sorry, I can't access the system because it was done by a different service. So you have to have another blood test. That is absolutely madness. It's not efficient. And so we are doing huge-scale reforms on that. I would urge everybody as much as possible.
Everyone can see that that's sensible, but you said you don't want, or you feel sad when people go private. Surely we should be encouraging people with means to pay for healthcare if they can. I mean, why
I think the NHS is one of our great institutions that should be there for everybody when they need it at a really high quality. That's one of the fundamental values of this country.
If more people took out private insurance,
no.
That would allow more people to use the NHS.
Let's bring Andrew in. I want to give Andrew the last word.
No.
Andrew, you left the NHS on its knees. They have put loads of money in it. There's more NHS appointments available. Would you accept that when it comes to the NHS, you fail the country?
Well, money's not necessarily the issue, the be-all and end-all when it comes to the NHS. We actually, during our time of government, spent more on the NHS than any government in history. We combated a global pandemic which puts the NHS under significant pressure and indeed had to deal with the junior doctor strikes. We weren't prepared to just buy them off to
we ended the junior doctor strikes because we were willing to negotiate with them.
By buying them off, and they've gone back on strike since. So I'm not sure that strategy worked. However, what I will say is, of course, we are supportive of any action taken to reform and improve the NHS. We very much hope that what Wes Streeting is trying to do with the NHS will yield results. We just have very little confidence that it will.
Andrew and Lola, sorry we didn't get onto small boats, but we have run out of time. Thanks for being fantastic guests. Andrew Bowie from the Tories and Lola McAvoy from Labour. Thanks for being with us. You're staying.
I'm staying with Nana Acquia. We'll be here in the studio for the next 2 hours with Good Afternoon Britain. See you in just a moment. Don't move a muscle.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. Now today's going to stay pretty unsettled for many of us because there's more heavy and thundery showery rain pushing its way across the country. There is an occluded front making its way northeastwards. This is bringing some showers, but behind it a deeper feature that's bringing some more intense rain. So some heavy bursts of thundery rain pushing across particularly western parts of England, Wales and also western Scotland. It's here where we're going to see the highest rainfall totals building up. Even elsewhere, a fair few showers to watch out for, but the greatest chance of staying dry will be across eastern areas, and here perhaps the highest temperatures. We're looking at them just about scraping into the low 20s, but do watch out. There will be some blustery winds taking the edge off those temperatures. Now, as we go through into this evening, that more persistent and at times heavy rain will push across more parts of Scotland, so western, southern parts here. We're going to see those totals building up a wet into the day here. Showers across Northern Ireland, still some heavy, perhaps even thundery ones. Meanwhile, more heavy, perhaps persistent rain across parts of northern England, and it's a showery picture across much of the rest of England and Wales as we go through towards the night. Now, there will be something a bit drier and clearer following in behind from the west as that band of more persistent rain clears away towards the northeast, but also a fair few showers coming in from western parts as we go overnight, and so it's not going to turn completely dry, although across some central and eastern parts parts there will be a lot of dry and clear weather, and here temperatures dropping a little bit lower than they have done through some recent nights, even some towns and cities getting into single figures. Then tomorrow it's going to be a blustery, showery day. The showers piling in from the west, so it's western areas where they're going to be most frequent, but some will filter their way further east as well. The chance of some more persistent rain affecting the far northwest of Scotland, and here we're going to have some strong winds, the risk of gales perhaps for some of us too. Elsewhere, a blustery day.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
And the second season of the Duchess of Sussex's lifestyle show with Love Meghan, I know you're excited, Nana.
I can't wait.
Has now been released on Netflix.
These moments of discovery and beauty. So let's be curious together. Do you know who doesn't like lobster?
Who?
My husband.
And you'll marry him?
I was lucky enough to be given a sneak peek of all 8 episodes, so I've seen the entire thing. I think if you like a cooking show, if you don't want to think much when you're watching it, the show's probably for you.
But it's lies.
If you don't like Meghan Markle, if you don't like the Duchess of Sussex and how she's got to the show, arguably her critics would clearly say that she wouldn't have been given this platform without marrying Prince Harry, etc., etc., then you're going to hate it. I mean, Meghan clearly has a passion for it. I think the top line, actually, is the fact that she says she was unwell when she was forced to be away from her children for almost 3 weeks. And what we suspect that period was after the Queen's death in 2022. Remember, she was here with Harry, and then obviously the Queen died, so they were here for another couple of weeks.
And hasn't she flown over some chef to show her how to cook things because she doesn't really know how to do it?
Yeah, the chef who cooks for her wedding with Harry, she's been flown over and do a very, very complicated halibut. And there's lots of behind-the-scenes photos of that wedding as well. So again, it's that link to the royal family that keeps
dragging the royal family
through.
back into it just to give her something to say to make her of interest. I'm just kind of bored of it all now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
just bored of it.
I think we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it rates, because obviously the only one that really rated well for Netflix was when they were, talking about themselves leaving the royal family, where clearly they spilled a lot of royal secrets. So that rated very well. The first season of With Love Meghan did OK, but it wasn't the most highly rated show on Netflix. We'll see what season 2 does. I mean, Meghan clearly has a passion for it. It's what she did with the Tig before she was a working member of the royal family. You're either going to love it or hate it, aren't you?
What grifting?
It's Marmite.
The People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 10th of September. I'm Nana Acquia.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
Yes, Britain's ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, is under pressure, admitting that he's stayed friends with Jeffrey Epstein far longer than he should have, sparking calls for Sir Keir Starmer to sack his top ally.
Yes, the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, did not let the matter go during Prime Minister's questions today.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is embarrassing that the Prime Minister is still saying that he has confidence in a man who was brokering deals with convicted child sex offenders.
Sir Keir Starmer stands by his embattled UK ambassador to Washington. But how long can it last? More to come is a concern, and that will embarrass both the UK and the US ambassador.
Elsewhere, tragically, 2 children were among 3 migrants who drowned in the Channel this morning. It comes as GB News can reveal that more than 31,000 have crossed so far this year, with 850 migrants arriving in just the past 24 hours.
NATO fighter jets shoot down Russian drones after a major airspace violation in Poland. Is this the closest we've come to direct conflict with Moscow?
And pressure is growing on the BBC to answer why the Apprentice star Thomas Skinner will be appearing on Strictly Come Dancing with criticism, pointing to his apparent right-wing politics and even his recent meeting with US Vice President J.D. Vance. But would there be that same pressure